After my wife's surgery, I took care of everything, cooked, cleaned, bathed her. 3 months later, I found out the friend bringing her groceries was actually the guy she cheated with while I was doing 12-hour shifts to pay the hospital bill. My name's Mike. I'm 34, and for the past 7 years, I thought I had a solid marriage. My wife, Erin, is 32. She's the type of person people call warm. Big smile, always remembers birthdays, and knows how to make anyone feel seen. I married her because she made me believe that quiet loyalty still meant something in this world. Turns out, loyalty is easy when it's convenient. The start of this story isn't flashy or dramatic. It wasn't some screaming match or explosive betrayal. It was slower, quieter. It crept in while I was tying her shoes, warming soup on the stove, and washing her hair in a plastic tub because she couldn't get out of bed without crying. She'd had a complicated abdominal surgery, one that knocked her flat for months. Hernia repair plus endometriosis complications. She was in real pain. It wasn't fake. But what happened after the surgery? That pain turned into something else entirely. Let me take you back 3 months. Erin was rushed into surgery after weeks of worsening symptoms. I remember sitting in the cold hospital waiting room, chewing the inside of my cheek, trying to stay awake after my fourth 12-hour factory shift in a row. I'd already used up my vacation time to take care of her pre-op needs. My paycheck that week barely covered the deductible, but I didn't complain. I wasn't there for the money. I was there because I loved her. After the operation, the surgeon came out and told me things had gone well, but she'd need a long recovery. No bending, no lifting, bed rest, careful, slow rehab. So that's what I gave her. For the next 3 months, I lived in 2 worlds, the factory floor and the inside of our little 2-bedroom apartment. My schedule was brutal. I'd clock out at 7 a.m., stop by the pharmacy for meds, swing through the grocery store for soup and crackers, come home, carry her to the bathroom, change her bandages, feed her, sponge her down, then try to nap for 3 hours before heading back to work again. I was breaking, but I never let her see that. She smiled at me a lot in those days, said she didn't know what she'd do without me. She'd grab my wrist with her small hand and say things like, "You're too good to me." At one point, she joked, "I bet no one else would wipe my butt without complaining." I laughed, because back then, I didn't know I was the only one wiping her while someone else was making her feel special. There was this guy, Jordan. I barely remembered him at first, but apparently, he'd known Erin way back. One of those vague old friends she never really talked about. She said he reached out when he heard about her surgery and offered to help, drop off groceries, run errands, keep her company during the day when I couldn't. At first, I was grateful. Truly. The first time he came by, I thanked him at the door while carrying in a 10-pound bag of dog food. I remember being so sleep-deprived I offered him a coffee and forgot to pour my own. He seemed normal, polite, a little too smooth for my taste, but whatever. I was too exhausted to overthink it. He started coming around weekly, always in the afternoons when I was asleep or at work. He'd bring flowers, soup, granola. Erin called him her lifesaver a few times. She said it like a joke. I told myself not to be jealous. I even told myself it was my own insecurity, that I was just overthinking everything because I was tired. She needed emotional support. And Jordan was just a friend filling in the gaps I couldn't, right? That's what I kept telling myself. Until one morning, a Wednesday, I was home, getting ready to crash after my shift. Erin was asleep on the couch, her phone lying face up next to her. And that's when it lit up. It was just a message preview. But it stopped me cold. From Jordan. Tell him I'll bring eggs like last time. Same time. Same time as what? I remember standing in the kitchen, holding a protein shake I never got around to drinking. My body was begging for sleep, but my brain clicked into something colder, sharper. I didn't open the message. I didn't touch her phone. I just stood there, staring at the words. And for the first time in 3 months, I started asking questions. Why was he texting her like they were coordinating around me? Why eggs and why again? I was the one doing all the grocery shopping. I hadn't seen eggs in this house for a week. And what exactly was same time? She never mentioned when Jordan came over. Just said he popped in sometimes. I always assumed it was random. Casual. But this sounded planned. Routine. Later that day, I gently asked her when Jordan had last come by. She blinked, thought for a second, and said, last Friday, I think. I didn't say anything. Just nodded. That was my first test. Because I knew Jordan had been here Monday. The door camera sent me a ping at 2:47 p.m., but I never checked it. I was too tired. Now I did. And what I saw changed everything. I'll stop here for now. Because what I saw on that footage wasn't just betrayal. It was clarity. And if she thought I was just the guy who picked up her pills and folded her towels, she had no idea who she married. It's amazing what your eyes can miss when your heart's still convinced it knows the truth. That door camera I never bothered with. The one Erin insisted we turn off for privacy after she got home from the hospital? I never did. I just stopped checking the footage. So that night, after seeing that text about the eggs, I dug into the archives. The system saves clips for 7 days. That gave me just enough time to watch every weekday Jordan had supposedly popped in to drop groceries. He didn't just pop in. He parked. He walked in like he owned the place. And he stayed. Longer than made sense. Monday, 2:47 p.m. The footage starts with him pulling into our driveway. Erin didn't even try to meet him at the door. But by minute 2, she's already at the entrance. Standing upright. No walker. No limp. She opened the door, peeked over her shoulder like she was waiting for someone to catch her, then smiled and let him in. I couldn't breathe. I'd spent the last 2 months carrying her to the bathroom. I'd lifted her legs into bed every night like they were made of glass. I helped her go to the bathroom with her arms wrapped around my neck. And here she was, walking, freely, smiling, welcoming another man into our home like this was a damn Airbnb. I watched more clips. Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Each visit followed a pattern. Jordan showed up around 2:30. Stayed until just before I got home. Left with a smug little wave at the doorbell cam. Sometimes she walked him out. Sometimes they stood there for a full minute just talking, too close, too familiar. Once, I saw him brush a hand across her back as he leaned in. She didn't flinch. She leaned in too. It was worse than watching an affair. It was watching a rehearsed routine. They had a system. I wanted to scream, throw my phone, wake her up and demand answers. But I didn't. Because somewhere deep down, I knew this was just the surface. And if Erin thought I was too tired to look deeper, she'd forgotten who she married. The next morning, I told her I was picking up a double shift. In reality, I took a sick day. I parked 2 blocks away and waited. Sure enough, 2:34 p.m. Jordan arrived. Same time, just like the text said. But this time, I wasn't watching from a camera. I was there. From my angle across the street, I saw him knock once. She opened the door in the same gray sweater she wore all week when I helped her bathe. Except now, she was upright. Hair down. Lipstick. She stepped aside, let him in. I waited 10 more minutes, then walked up. Quietly, like I'd forgotten something. And just as I reached the porch, I stopped. I didn't knock. I didn't go inside. I just listened. Her voice, low and light, floated down the hallway. He has no idea. He thinks I still need help going to the bathroom. Laughter. Male. Jordan. Babe, he said. He thinks he's Florence Nightingale. You gotta give the man credit. Another laugh. Her this time. Don't be mean. You said it first. Silence. Then, you really think we can keep this up? If he hasn't noticed by now, he's not going to. That was it. I left. Back in my car, I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I didn't even scream. I just sat there, listening to the same voice I'd once stayed up all night with, whispering that I was her safe place. Now call me stupid behind a closed door. I didn't go to work that night. I called out again. Instead, I sat in the parking lot of a 24-hour diner and thought through every single conversation we'd had since the surgery. All the thank yous, the kisses on the cheek, the small smiles when I brought her favorite crackers. All fake. Calculated. And for what? For Jordan? I went home that night and lay beside her while she slept. She curled toward me like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't just watched the life we built rot from the inside out. I stared at the ceiling and counted the seconds until sunrise. Because now, I had a plan. She thought she was clever. She had no idea how quiet I could be when I really needed to listen. The next few days, I didn't confront her. I didn't ask about Jordan. I didn't hint that I knew. Because I needed more than suspicions and camera footage. I needed something undeniable, unexplainable, final. And she gave it to me without even realizing it. It was a Sunday morning, and Erin had just dozed off in the recliner after I helped her with breakfast. Her pain meds usually made her sleep for a couple hours, and I'd learned to use that time for everything: laundry, dishes, bills, whatever needed doing. That morning, I was stripping the bed to wash the sheets when I noticed her little spiral journal poking out from under her pillow. She'd started writing in it during recovery, said it helped her process everything she was feeling. I never touched it, never asked to read it. That was her space. But now, I couldn't look away. The cover was bent, the edges curled. The pen was still clipped to the coil. I hesitated for a full minute before I opened it. And then I read. It wasn't a diary. It was a timeline. Her entries tracked her recovery days, each one starting with a pain level rating, but quickly shifting into deeply personal reflections. Only they weren't about pain. She wrote about Jordan, about how he made her feel seen again, about how our apartment felt too quiet when I was at work, and how Jordan brought energy back into her life. Worse, she talked about how easy it was to keep me from knowing. She admitted she could walk fine by week 3, that she overplayed her symptoms to keep me close, to keep me distracted. There was an entry where she described how performing helplessness gave her cover. She called it strategy. Then came the final pages, the ones that burned. She described how she knew I wouldn't suspect anything. She said I was too loyal, too trusting, too busy trying to be the good guy to realize she had already checked out emotionally. She even practiced excuses in the journal, wrote out scripts. One entry laid it out in bullet points. If I ever found out, she'd blame the stress, say it was emotional, claim nothing physical ever happened. There was a full paragraph wondering if she should cry during the explanation or stay calm, so I wouldn't think she was faking it. It was rehearsed, prepared. That broke me more than the betrayal. I closed the journal and put it back exactly where I found it. Then I walked into the kitchen, sat down, and stared at my hands for a long time. This wasn't just an affair. This was months of manipulation, plotted while I was emptying bedpans and scrubbing dried broth off her sheets. She used my kindness as camouflage. And the worst part? She still believed she had me fooled. I got up at 3 a.m., logged into our bank account, and started moving half of everything into a separate savings account under my name. I reviewed the lease. It was my name on the apartment, not hers. I called out of work for the week. And then I made 3 appointments. One with a divorce lawyer, one with a therapist, and one with a locksmith. Because I wasn't just leaving her. I was about to vanish from the role she assigned me. The fool. The days that followed were strange. Almost peaceful. Erin smiled more. She stopped pretending to limp when she moved around the apartment. She even joked that she might be ready to start helping again soon. The audacity was almost impressive. I didn't say much. I did the laundry, took out the trash, kissed her on the forehead before work. And every time I did, I thought about how rehearsed it all was for her, while I, silently, was memorizing my final scene. I'd already transferred my half of the money. I'd already set up my temporary housing, just a small, furnished apartment downtown through a friend of mine. A backup plan, in case she tried to beg or stall. The lawyer walked me through everything. He said it would be straightforward, especially since I had proof, text messages, camera footage, journal entries. I didn't even have to confront her. I could serve her, move out, and let the legal system handle the fallout. But something didn't sit right about that. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted clarity. I wanted her to know I knew. To feel, if only for a second, the shock I felt reading her words on paper. So I waited for the perfect moment. That moment came the following Friday. She thought I was working a double. She kissed me goodbye at 6 a.m., packed a grocery list into my pocket, and said she'd be fine, until Jordan stopped by later. I walked out, rounded the corner, and waited. At 2:36 p.m., right on schedule, Jordan's car pulled up. He wasn't even trying to hide anymore. Parked bold as hell in our driveway, strolled up to the front door with a tote bag of groceries, and a smug grin like this was just another day at his girl's house. The door opened. She let him in. I gave him 5 minutes. Then I walked back in through the side entrance. It was dead quiet inside, at first. Then I heard her laugh. A soft, high sound I hadn't heard in weeks. She only laughed like that when she thought I wasn't listening. I walked into the hallway. Camera on. Quiet footsteps. No yelling. I rounded the corner into the kitchen. There they were. Jordan sitting at the counter, sipping orange juice. Erin leaning against the fridge, arms crossed, smirking at something he'd said. And then she saw me. For a half second, she didn't react. Her brain couldn't compute the image. Then her entire face collapsed into panic. Jordan's eyes went wide. He nearly dropped the glass. No one spoke. I pulled up a chair, set my phone on the table, and opened a small folder. Printouts, screenshots, journal pages. I didn't say a word, just slid them forward across the table. She opened her mouth to say something, probably her rehearsed excuse, but I raised a hand. Still no words. Jordan stood up like he was going to bolt. I told him to sit. And to my surprise, he did. Because even he could feel it. The weight of being caught in something that had already unraveled. The game wasn't just over. It had been over for weeks. They just didn't know it. Erin tried to speak again. This time I did speak, just once. I told her everything I'd seen. Every lie I'd watched her live out while I worked overnight shifts to keep the lights on. Every moment she asked me for help while secretly laughing about it later. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just looked hollow, like a person watching their entire reflection crack wide open. And maybe that's what I wanted more than anything else. Silence. No screaming, no slammed doors. Just the undeniable, slow realization that she had underestimated the wrong man. Then I stood up, grabbed my keys, and handed her an envelope. Inside, divorce papers. Signed. Ready. And then I walked out. Not because I was angry anymore, but because I didn't need anything from her. Not answers, not closure. Just the freedom to never play caretaker to someone who never actually cared. That night, I didn't go back. Not to get my stuff. Not to check if she signed the papers. I didn't even open the tracker app to see if she was texting or calling. I just lay on a new mattress in my quiet, bare apartment and let the silence soak into my bones. It felt like breathing for the first time in months. No tension in the hallway. No watching the clock for pill times. No pretending I didn't notice the smell of cologne that wasn't mine. Just peace. And my phone, blissfully quiet. At least until the next morning. 9:07 a.m. First missed call. Aaron. 9:10 missed call. 9:11 missed call. Then silence. Then texts. Short ones at first. Can we talk? Where are you? Mike, please. By noon, she switched tactics. Longer messages. Mixed with guilt and justifications. She didn't mean for it to happen. She was scared. Jordan was just someone to talk to. And then the kicker. I never stopped loving you. I didn't respond. At 3 p.m., the final message of the day came in. Jordan left. That part. I actually laughed. Turns out, cheaters aren't built for each other. They're built for thrill. For ego boosts. For distractions from their own emptiness. But when reality knocks on the door, divorce papers, exposed lies, consequences, they scatter. I don't know if Jordan dumped her the minute I left, or if she tried to cling to him now that I was gone. But it didn't matter. Either way, she was alone. Exactly where she put herself. Over the next few days, I heard things through mutual friends. Jordan had ghosted. Blocked her number. Someone saw her crying in her car outside his apartment. Her family got involved. Her mom called me once, tried to ask if I could just talk to her one more time. I didn't answer. My therapist called it detachment. I just called it relief. I never went back for my clothes. Sent a courier instead. When he dropped off my box of things, I found a note inside. Her handwriting. No apology. No explanation. Just, you really left. She still didn't get it. I didn't leave when I walked out the door. I left the night I read her journal. When I realized she'd traded love for manipulation. That she didn't just cheat on me. She used me. And the truth is, I think she assumed I'd forgive her. That I was too soft to walk away. Too loyal to break the pattern. But love without respect isn't love. It's servitude. And I don't do that anymore. 1 year. That's how long it's been since I walked out of that apartment with nothing but my wallet, my keys, and a copy of the papers she never thought I'd sign. In the time since, I changed jobs, left the factory, got a quieter role at a maintenance company with fewer hours and better pay. Started cooking again, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I even adopted a dog from the shelter. Her name's Rue. She listens better than Aaron ever did. I sleep through the night now. No alarms. No middle of the night pill runs. No whispered conversations in the kitchen while I'm at work. But every so often, there's a shadow. A ping. A name that pops up when I least expect it. Aaron. She didn't sign the divorce papers right away. Delayed for weeks. Tried to rewrite the story. Said she wanted counseling. That it wasn't what it looked like. Claimed it wasn't physical. But I had the footage. Her handwriting. Her voice on that hallway recording. Laughing about how easy I was to manipulate. Eventually, the lawyer sent her a final warning. 3 days later, she signed. No alimony. No split of assets. Just her walking away with a suitcase and a lie she could tell her friends. We haven't spoken since. But a month ago, right before the anniversary of her surgery, I got an email. Subject line, you might not read this. I read the first few lines. Then stopped. It wasn't an apology. Not really. She wrote that she misses what we had, that she didn't realize what she'd lost, and that she sees now how much I did for her. She said she was lonely, that she hoped, someday, maybe, we could meet and talk as people. There it was again. That same soft, rehearsed tone she used the night she called me her lifesaver. I didn't delete it, but I didn't respond either, because that chapter's closed. Sometimes I wonder what she tells people when they ask about me. Maybe she says I left without warning, that I changed. Maybe she paints herself as the one left behind. But I don't worry about that anymore. Because the people who know me, the ones who stayed, know the truth. They know I bent over backwards to care for a woman who was rehearsing her exit while I folded her laundry. They know I wasn't just betrayed. I was used. And still, I didn't retaliate. I just stepped away and let the silence do the talking. Final thought. If there's anything I learned from this, anything I'd pass on to someone in my shoes, it's this. When someone shows you who they are in private, believe it. Not everyone deserves your loyalty. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do is leave quietly and never look back. And that's the story. If you're still here, that means you're one of us. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I drop new chaos every single day, and trust me, tomorrow's story, it's even worse than this one.